Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Kerry Mind, Body and Spirit Experience. So welcome today. I'm just waiting for the live feed just to move in there with ourselves, and then we'll get on about our talk for today. Okay, so for this morning, we're doing a talk from 11:15. Okay, and then we're doing the card readings at 12:15. Okay, perfect. So for those that don't know, I teach a lot of holistic courses as well. So basically what I wanted to touch on today, which I think is very important, is a lot about how the past and influences of people can hinder us going forward. Okay, so this is about the soul. Morning Bernie, how you doing? Hi Mike, how you doing? Hi Freddie. So this is all about the soul. Okay, it's about things that we're not aware of that can stop us from moving forward. Okay, it's also understanding about past lives, relationships. Okay, it's on about ancestral linear, so how that can hinder us from moving forward. It's all about yourself, your belief systems, what you feel to be right, and I suppose other people's belief systems in terms of telling us what they feel to be right too. Hi Susan, how are you? So we're just about to get started. So the first thing I want to say is I want to talk about this life, okay? Because we do have past lives. Anything I give you is through my own experience and what I have learned. So just bear that in mind also. So I don't give anything out to people if I haven't gone through it or if I haven't experienced or had the knowledge of it, okay? It's down to yourselves then in terms of what you believe and what you don't believe. So I'm not here to try to change your minds or anything. I'm just giving you my experience. So the first thing that I want to talk about really is past lives. So do past lives have a hindrance? Can past lives have an effect on us moving forward? And the answer to that is yes. And this is my experience of a past life. So years ago, I went on and I did a past life experience, should we say. And I wanted to know the purpose of, is there anything in my past life that was stopping me from moving forward? That was my intent. Okay, so basically I went into a past life, and at the time my confidence was quite low. So I was starting to change it a little bit in this life, but I just wanted to know I just felt there was something more that needed to be changed. So what I basically did was went into a past life, and where I was there, I was a beggar. And I was in this old-fashioned style era, and there were all these, women and men walking around with the top hats and, that kind of tales and stuff like that. And I was sitting on the floor with a bag of apples, it was a basket of apples. And basically everybody was just looking at me and just walking past me, and my head was down to the ground and I just couldn't look up. And then another past life I had done, her name was Leah, she was a high priestess. She came through and she said, hand them out the apples. And I went, no, I'm not handing out the apples. They can't even look at me. They don't like me. So she helped me up off the ground. She said, give them an apple. So, with that, I moved forward and I started handing out the apples. And then the difference in the people, for those who had walked past me, had now stopped and started to acknowledge me. And the difference in that lady who had become very quiet, reserved, and had lack of confidence was now smiling. So they were now more confident in themselves. And when I came out of that meditation, I actually found a change within myself. And I'm not lying, this is true. I actually came out and I found a change with myself. I found by actually giving those apples out and changing that perception on that past life had a difference on me now. In terms of, I felt more confident when I came out. I felt like it wasn't something that was wrong with me or something that I couldn't overcome. So through that, I had learned how to work with the past lives as well. And a few times I brought different people back in past lives as well. Confidence, relationships, whatever it is. Now, I don't tell them what to go to. We just go back and see what it is that they need to find out or what they need to heal to work on. And it has been very successful and has been great. Okay, that's one area that we need to look at, because the past, in terms of how we have been in the past, can have an imprint. So sometimes if you want to change something, going back into your past life can help that too. Another thing is really about self-belief systems. Okay, everybody, I suppose, can relate to this in some shape or form. As a child, the things that were said to us, don't talk, don't speak, sit down, be quiet, respect your elders. Do you know, all these kind of things that the generation maybe is to our parents, that kind of generation really of being told what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So that's grand as a child, because what happens, we're being told and we're told, and this is what our parents are saying to us, or this is what people are telling us we should and shouldn't do. So it imprints into our body. So an imprint is basically a belief system where somebody is telling us something and it's repeated and repeated that we start to believe it. But the thing is as well, you have to remember that this is a choice within yourself, because all those belief systems may work for that person, it doesn't necessarily work for you. So you have to go back and say, well, yeah, this person told me this. Does that really fit with me? Do I believe in that? Okay, so what you have to try to do is change that belief system, because people don't realize when you're saying to respect your elders, okay? Yeah, it's always great to have respect, but there's a difference between respect and allowing other people to dictate to you and tell you what to do. So respect is very, very important, but it can hinder you in relationships, it can hinder you in life, it can hinder you in jobs, because if somebody is dictating to you and controlling you and telling you what to do, then you actually find then that you won't find your voice. So where's your voice? Who are you? So there's a part of you in life that we do stuff because we have been told that's what we should be doing, because somebody in authority above us knows better than ourselves. And that's not the case. The only person who knows what is right for you is you. And that's as plain as simple as that. So because we have been told this, we now need to change it. Okay, so, and that can be quite hard. And the best way I was described and the best way I was shown to explain to yourself was, it's like if you built a solid concrete wall, okay, and you've plastered all the concrete in, and it's really cement, and the cement is very solid. So it's a solid wall and it's great for a foundation. But the thing is, your imprint can be like that solid foundation. So what you have to do is to knock down that foundation bit by bit. Now, if you've got a solid foundation, just say in a house, and you want to knock it down to rebuild, it's going to take time, isn't it, to knock it down because it's solid. It's the same with an imprint. It takes time. And instead of knocking it down, you're changing slowly the way that you think. I understand that may work for them, but for me, it's not really working for me. So what do I need to do? So I'm going to say, right, these are my belief systems. Yeah, I understand that one. I'm going to keep that one because that's working for me. This one isn't, so I really need to work on getting that away. Now, depending on how strong the imprint is within your body, within your mindset, within yourself, you may need to work a little bit, and it may take time to change it, but you can change it. You have to remember that in generation, also going back generations, the things that happened in generations with your parents and with your ancestors, okay, have changed because we have evolved. The way that we work now has evolved. The way things in the life now has evolved. So we have to evolve our way of thinking. We have to change our mindset to where we are now, because what would have worked back then is not going to work now. And what will work for our children going forward won't necessarily work the way we're working now. So it's a change, and every day it's a change in terms of what you're doing and in terms of where you're moving. But the most important thing is that you have control and that you can change it, okay? And this comes back a lot to do with you thinking, I am, say Martina, what works for me, okay? There's belief systems that my parents would have that I'd say, yeah, no, I like them. I do appreciate that, and I'm going to keep them. But there's belief systems that my parents would have had that I'm like, no, that definitely doesn't work for me. Okay. And sometimes we try to, and we don't even realize we're doing it. Sometimes we try to be and have the same thoughts and inspirations of our parents. But in hindsight, with us moving forward and the way things are changing, although they're not bad, it just doesn't work for ourselves. Also, when we are children and we're being don't talk, okay? Not in that way, but in you get the gist of what I'm saying. When you come to find your voice going later in life and you want to stand up for yourself, You don't, because you've been told, don't talk, don't be disrespectful. So in a way, through those imprints, and our parents and our ancestors don't realize they're doing that all the time, they're actually taking our power away, because we are now have lost our power from a young age. We've lost our voice from a young age. So now what we need to do is to try to find that voice moving forward. We have to learn how to find our voice, how to stand up for ourselves. And it's not about being hostile. Okay, it's nothing to do with that at all. It's just about you have a voice and your voice is to be used. So it's down to you how to use it. So we have to work on getting rid of that imprint of don't be talking, don't be doing this and don't be doing that, to change. It's actually okay to talk. It's okay to express my feelings. It's okay to say this isn't working for me. Okay, because like I said, what would happen for them and how they coped doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen for us, because that life is evolving and we're changing. This comes back down to ancestral. So how does ancestral and what is ancestral linear? So ancestral linear and ancestors is about your parents, your grandparents, and anything that's linked to your bloodline going back in generation and generation. Okay, so this can hinder us in so many ways, in so many ways. And the first thing I want to talk about is, when I'm talking ancestral, like I said, I'm not going to go too much into it because I've touched it on the belief systems, is how our parents were talking to us and bringing us up. Okay, so sometimes that won't work and sometimes it will. But you have to remember, your parents have been taught by their parents. So again, their parents probably would have the same belief systems. So you can only pass down what you know, your knowledge. You can only pass down what you've been taught by those who've had a huge impact on your life. But then you have to see, where does it fit in? Now, a lot of people, when it comes to ancestral, especially when it comes to love from parents, find it very hard to move forward, because there are a lot of people that are out there that lack a lot of self-confidence, a lot of self-belief, because of how their parents have treated them, or because they have been unemotionally available to give that child what they need. So a lot of people moving forward find it hard to allow that love to come into a relationship, to allow that love to come into themselves, because they never had it from a child. It doesn't mean that that person's parents were bad. You have to go back to that person and those people, those parents, and see what their learning has been. So you normally find, when you're doing readings or when you're doing this type of work in terms of the soul, it's not it's not because their parents are bad people or because they're wrong, but if you go back to their grandparents, their parents would be the same way. It's very hard to pass on something if you've never been taught how to do it. Do you know? So again, by going back ancestral with somebody, it helps them to heal the relationships with their families. It doesn't mean that, you're saying what has happened is okay, but by having an understanding, it gives you the power to move forward. Okay? And what I also say to people as well, take a step back, because we get so emotionally involved, which is normal. Take a step back and say, right, okay, if that was a different person, okay, if I had no emotional attachment to them, what would I say to that person, the child or the daughter or the son? What advice would I give them? Okay, because when you're attached emotionally to something, it's very hard to disconnect from it. It's impossible on most occasions, depending on how strong that imprint is. So what you'd say is, like, if this was somebody else, what would I say to that child? Or how would I reassess the situation and what the parent is? Because we can always understand things better when we're looking from a third person than ourselves. So sometimes you can go into, and this is what I did with my own family, with my own parents, is go into them and say, well, okay, so where are they coming from? So I went back generation with them to help me to understand where their belief systems were, but also to help understand, why they did things and why they didn't do things, And it does actually help a lot, because like I was taught, and like the guides have taught me, how can they pass on something if they've never been shown it? So then we become the teachers. The children actually become the teachers, and we show them how to give. We show them how to have compassion. We show them how to empathy. But by doing that, we take our voice back, because sometimes when we lack that confidence or that self-esteem from our parents, we lose our voice in that as well. So again, this can hinder you by wanting to be loved. They can hinder you in terms of what relationships and friendships that you do bring forward, because what happens, we intend to, if we crave that love and want love from somebody that we haven't had it from in the past, especially if they're very close to us, we will take that love from anywhere we can get it from. It doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that we're not good enough for it. But what we do is we'll take it from anybody once they give us some kind of affection. And this can lead to a lot of people being stuck in controlling relationships, being stuck in abusive relationships, but also being stuck with relationships that they're not happy because they feel within themselves that they're not good enough to get anything else because of their childhood and because of the imprints of other people and around them. So what we need to do then is just take them back ancestral, take them back into their childhood, see what has happened, let them figure it out, because we don't want to tell them, we don't want to give them the information, but giving them the techniques to process it, by giving them techniques to help them to understand, they then can change that imprint with them in terms of moving forward. And that's when they will stop to bring on those type of relationships, whether platonic or romantic, because we have to understand where it's coming from in order for it to change. And that's the thing about this talk. Sometimes we don't know where it's coming from. And again, it's not about you saying, look, it's okay and it's right. But what it is giving you control and giving you that peace and understanding. And it's more the understanding, so you can understand where other people are coming from, so you can make peace with it, so you can move forward. A lot of people as well, if you have come from broken homes, and this comes up a lot also, if you've come from broken homes or if you've gone into a home, fostered or whatever, there is a lot about the fear of that reflection and that reciprocating in your life. Okay, so when people have gone through that trauma, when they're moving forward, they won't let themselves go complete in a relationship because they're waiting for that reoccurrence of what has happened in their childhood to reoccur. Or if they've come from a separated family, they're waiting for that relationship to divide, like their parents' relationships or even their grandparents' relationships would be now. Okay, so again, just regards to that, it's about you have that control. You don't have to, it's not going to happen because it's happened in your ancestors. You have that choice. If you want that relationship, you have it within yourself to keep a solid relationship, although it may have happened with your family. Okay, it's really down to you. So it's about anything within your life you can change. Okay, you can get rid of it and you can let it go, or you can change it for the better. But most importantly, it's understanding to not allow the fear to stop you from moving forward and allow you from having change. Just because things have happened in the past, it doesn't mean that you yourself can't change it. We are evolving more as people. Our thought systems are evolving more as a person and in the world that we live in. So just because things have happened in the past, it doesn't have control over ourselves. And when it has been an imprint and a strong sense of being within ourselves, that's when we start to give up. And that's when we think that we shouldn't be doing. And that's when we think that's all I'm worthy of receiving. I have a very strong motto: change the things that you don't want in your life and manifest the things that you do, because everything comes within yourselves. And I know that sounds so simple, but it is so simple when you start to let go of the resentment and the hurt and the fear, because that's the one thing that holds you back. It's about giving you that understanding to know that you can change and that you're not going to follow the same suit as your parents. I mean, so many people I've come across whereby I'm not going to get that relationship, or they won't let themselves go because of the fear of separation, because of the fear of not being good enough, because of the fear of, if their parents weren't very nice to them because they're not emotionally available, or because their parents' own trauma, or because their parents have not experienced how to give love and how to give compassion, and so it's not their fault. It's just the upbringings. The times are different, the eras are different in terms of how people were brought up, and sometimes it could have been a little bit harder in the past, in terms of how they had to. So especially with women, women had to stand up more for themselves in the past, where we're having balance now. So it's not about who's to blame, it's about understanding, so that you can have peace and harmony going forward within that. Does anybody have any questions with regard to what I've just been saying, or any questions about things that you might like to know around this? Like I said, this is my own experience, the experience that I have been taught through guides, through different teachers, I suppose, along the way, that they've opened a little door and I've just ventured into it myself. So it's experiences. Now, in terms of how you handle it, it's entirely different per person. Okay, so your experiences will be completely different to somebody else's. So the person who can change it is you. Okay, and the only person who's going to be able to understand how to change it is yourself, because we all have different traumas, we all have different belief systems from people, we all have different upbringings than others, you know, and we all have different past lives because of others. Another one I want to touch about is a little bit about karmic. So karmic to me is about what goes around, you know, comes around. I don't kind of believe in that. What goes around comes around, to be honest with you, because I just kind of feel, for me, if I just send it with love, it comes back into the way it's meant to. I think sometimes when we look at karmic, it's like you're kind of causing hurt and fear into somebody else. Okay, Lindsay, we're doing card readings, lovely, at 12:15. Okay, hon, this is just a talk for now. So I would, with the karmic, I kind of feel when you talk about that, now I have done past into this also, where sometimes we may have hurt somebody in our past lives and we're not aware of it. So sometimes it's good just to go back in and just say, look, is there anybody or your ancestors might have hurt somebody in the past too? Okay, and sometimes like that, it gets caught on generation. And when I'm talking about karmic and I'm talking about lessons and I'm talking about ancestors, the one thing I have been guided to explain to yourself as well is sometimes when we have traits like bullying, say bullying, for instance, if you're being bullied now, okay, I guarantee you, or somebody's gone through bullying, because we all know about bullying. If somebody has gone through bullying, okay, you guarantee that somebody in your ancestors or somebody in your own family has had bullying. So it could be down to your parents, or it could be their brothers and sisters has gone through bullying. And then you're guaranteed, if you speak to your parents, there would be somebody in their older ancestors, okay, so in your great grandparents, that would have bullying situations as well. So this is really, really, really important, because if you don't overcome it and you don't stop it, it will pass down to your linear. Okay, so for instance, I want to talk about, let's just say I would have been bullied when I was younger. Never really kind of stood up for myself. I was always taught, just walk away, everything be okay. Then I actually saw it happening to one of my other children. Again, thought it'd be okay, walk away. And then that's when my belief system started to change. This isn't okay. You have to stand up. So then it started to come down to another linear. So then we stopped it. Okay. So what I'm trying to say to you, you as a person need to stop things in your life that you feel are generational, because it will carry down generation. And I've learned that a lot over the last couple of years. It's again, sometimes if you have somebody in your family who's an alcoholic or has an addiction, you'll find that will go back ancestral. There will be somebody in an ancestor before you would have the same traits. Okay. Sometimes then it's about, I won't say helping, because you can't help everybody, but if that person changed that addiction, it will stop them coming down linear again with them. So it's a training, it's a lesson, it's a thought that hasn't been passed, that hasn't been achieved by our ancestors, but because it's an ancestral linear, somebody on the ancestral line needs to stop it and needs to change it, but it can be changed. So again, it's about understanding things like that too. Again, if you want to go into physical relationships or abusive relationships, you may find that this will come ancestral. So it could be somebody on your parents' side. It could be somebody going back generation again. So sometimes when we see it happening in our ancestors, we automatically think, well, this is going to happen to us. So when we're in relationships, we kind of think, well, it's happened to others before me, so this is what we must be going through. And again, it's no. And what I always say to people is, with regards to that, it takes strength and it takes courage. Yeah, definitely. It's no easy thing to be involved in. Okay. But then you start to believe, well, I don't have to put up with this. I don't have to deal with this. And sometimes we need help, and there's nothing wrong with getting help in helping us to get out of situations like that. But the most important thing is to remember, just because somebody in your past, in your own family have gone through it, doesn't mean you have to go through it. Because again, that imprint within yourself will highlight, well, my family's gone through it, so this is what I must be putting up with, or this must be happening to me because it's what I meant to get. And that's not true. It's not true. You can stop it. You can stop anything in your life if it's not for you and it doesn't work for you. Okay? And I'm not saying that it's easy all the time, but first you need to learn to see where it's coming from so that you can change it and move forward from it. But you also need to remember you have the power within yourself and you can change anything that you don't want. Okay? And like I said, I wouldn't give this on to you or pass it on to you if I haven't done it myself. I don't give people guidance or information unless I have been through it myself, you know, and it has worked and it has given me a better understanding, and because of it I'm able to change things now because I now know what to change. I now know I'm not putting up with this anymore. I now know that I deserve better. And it took me a long time to get there, I'm not going to lie. But because of my knowledge, it's what I pass on to people like yourselves. Just say, look, you have it, you can change it, you could be anything that you want to be. Okay? Don't allow the past to control you. Don't allow the belief systems of your families to control you. Don't allow the ancestors to control you. And, you know, sometimes I've helped my mum to help understand this as well. You know, in terms of that, of just saying, look, this has happened, but look back and give her healing from it. Because this is about you at the end of the day. It's not about forgiving other people. It's not about turning around and saying this is okay. It's about giving you peace. It's about giving you control. It's all about you. And you are the most important person. But it's understanding that to have happiness, you are the person to do it. You know, but sometimes when it comes down to families, especially if we're looking for that love from our family, and sometimes unfortunately we don't get it when they're here in the physical world, they come back from the spirit world to give that healing and to say, give their apologies and to explain why they were the way they were. But the one thing, if you are going through family issues like that, go back to your grandparents. How were your grandparents? Both sides of the family, not just one, and go back to the grandparents before that and the knowledge that you do have, because they can't give you something that they have not received. But we're more open, we're more spiritual nowadays, we're more wanting to change our lives instead of being dictated to, and we're very lucky in that sense because we have that ability to be able to do it now. Whereas before, in their generations, they didn't. You just did what you were told and that was it, you know. And if like that, if they were told back in their lives, you know, how to understand, or if their parents were shown, sometimes they're a little bit strict and they gave love out through punishment or through dictatorship or through control. But again, it's not their fault because you're guaranteed it would have gone back in the next generation with them in terms of that's how they got told. But then their lives and their systems and their way of living was a lot harder now, and they didn't have as many choices that we do now. So that healing within parents and between families is about your understanding so that you and you alone can have peace. And by accepting that, you'll actually get the love from your families and get the love in a way that you understand now without you feeling I'm not good enough or nobody loves me. Okay, so that's just a little bit of talk today about just how you can move forward and things that you may not be aware of that can hold us back. So a little bit of thinking around it. But remember, you're in control, you have the reins, and there's absolutely nothing that you can't do. You know, it's just a little bit of thinking and just a little bit of healing, and off you go. Okay, does anybody have any questions, guys, before we tie up, or, you know, anything at all? It could be anything around your own lives. It could be experience. You don't have to give your name. You can just say, I heard about a such and such, this happened to somebody. Do you know? We don't have to hang ourselves out to dry as well. But if there is any questions, you can put it on the live feed. Or if you do want to put on the live feed, just give me a message after. I'm back on 12:15 for card readings anyway. So I mightn't get back to you within the next hour. But if there was a question that you did want to know and you didn't want it on the live feed, just give me a private message. And look, I'll give you my experience by doing that. Now, when I'm teaching the courses on these, I tune into the person as well. So not only, so we work together. when we're doing this, when we're going back into past lives ancestral. So when I'm working with somebody on the courses, I actually tune into them and take them through meditations and that hypnotic state, I suppose, in a sense, where we work together. But I guide them to where they need to be, but they find their answers themselves, if that makes sense. So again, it's about not telling you what it is. It's about showing you how to find the answers yourself, because if somebody gives you the answers, it's not the same, because you're not helping them to find that understanding. Okay, so it's guiding that person to find where they need to be so that they can find that understanding, so that they can understand where it comes from. Okay, so that they know how to change it. Okay, guys, so thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again at 7:15. Hi, Megs, how you doing, lovely? Meg is on today again on the Mind, Body and Spirit. I think it's 4 o'clock, is it, Meg? So again, anything, just give me a message. Look, have an amazing day. I'll see you 12:15. And like I said, you are in control. You are in your power, and keep your power. And remember, anything that doesn't work for yourself, get rid of it, because you're not meant to have it. Take care, you guys. Bye.